Good morning, class. You're just going to be hearing my voice today as we talk about conflict and group therapy. I'm sorry it took me so long to watch all your videos. I just so happened to be watching videos for my professional practice class as well as your class. Everything was due the same week. And so I had 40 videos to watch. And as you guys know, yours were 45 minutes. So I wanted to give everyone the time and attention with their videos. So I got through them all this morning on February 13th. So I think I have one more to grade, and then everything will be posted, and then I'll look at your papers. I'm sorry everything was so close together. For future reference, I will make note that that probably shouldn't happen, not only for your sake, but for the professor's sake as well. I did really enjoy watching your videos. I loved how you guys utilized technique to keep the group going. And hopefully from your experience of doing the groups, you're able to notice just the benefit of having something to do for the group and keeping dynamics going, keeping conversation going, keeping engagement happening, and even how some of those techniques can cause people to maybe reflect better, have better insight, all those kinds of things. I just think you guys did an amazing job. And I really enjoyed watching them. And I know for some of you there was some frustration. Maybe people backed out last minute. I noticed some people with masks on in your group, so hopefully people are all well. I know it's a lot to ask of that many people, but it's just to give you a feel. So if some of you had some people bounce before your video, don't that didn't count against you. I appreciate the efforts. I appreciate you guys really seemingly not giving me a hard time about the assignment. In the past, this has been a difficult assignment for people, but you guys all participated super well, super great, very impressed. So I thought you did well. So hopefully the nerves that you've had about group, I know this isn't a real group because it's fake, it's role play. I hope this maybe gave you some encouragement, and maybe you saw some neat things that happened even in a role play scenario. And you were able to utilize and see how technique can be so beneficial. You could see group dynamics. I think some of you threw some group dynamic in there. And maybe it was some of your actors like brought out a little bit of hostility just because they didn't understand at times. Like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand. It was great to see that probably some of you had family members participate. It was really fun to watch. So again, I really enjoyed watching them. Thought you did well. Be encouraged. Don't be discouraged. But we're talking about hostility today. And as we know, when you're working with groups of people, there's going to be some conflict. And probably if you've been in any kind of group before, you've experienced conflict. I've experienced conflict in a group. It was very uncomfortable. I think the person got up actually and left, which was uncomfortable. It was a very small group. So, yeah, I've had those moments. So again, some groups become too nice and they avoid conflict, and conflict and confrontation are part of life, and it's part of our modeling process, right? Like, we're demonstrating how people should behave in group, outside of group, not just within the group. And so if we're avoiding things, that's no different than what they may be doing outside of the group. And so we're trying to demonstrate healthier ways of relating to others, dealing with things, even problematic, uncomfortable things. And so we need to show the group members how valuable this whole thing is, how valuable conflict is, and be willing to confront it. A lot of different things can come up as far as why there could be hostility in a group. Some of it could be defensiveness, just people are really on edge due to subject matter, a topic, and that just really sets them over the top. Some of it could be due to just personal dynamics. Maybe somebody really reminds somebody of somebody else. Maybe they're projecting some of their own issues on a group member. There's a lot of potential for uncomfortable situations in group. And so, not uncommon. But I think as group leaders, we have to notice these things and try to deal with them as quickly as we can so it doesn't make itself manifest in a worse way. Maybe someone gave someone criticism and how that person handled the criticism wasn't well. There's a lot of different reasons, like we're different people, come from different backgrounds, have had different experiences. And so not every group is just going to come together and be super cohesive. And so it's just trying to manage that dynamic and not being too intimidated to confront it. Sometimes people see, maybe if it's a woman and there's a male in the group, they might project a relationship situation on that person or vice versa, or a parent-child dynamic, that can happen very easily. I think we talked about in one of the other chapters, and Yalom was saying how he was head of a group of incest survivors and he was the only male. And so a lot of things got projected on him because of being the only male. And so, not to be unexpected, I think expecting conflict is normal. I think it'd be an unrealistic expectation to not expect conflict. I think you'd be setting yourself up for feeling like a failure, even though you didn't do anything wrong. I think what you have to be conscientious of is when it starts to happen, to not shy away from it and really develop an attitude of, we deal with things. And in this group, we're going to model healthy boundaries and healthy ways of handling conflict. And so as conflict arises, we're going to deal with it, and we're going to work through hard situations to hopefully get better outcomes than maybe you have experienced in your past. And being able to talk with group members about that, let them know that that's something you want to do as a way of like helping them mature, but also to keep the group healthy. I think it's fair to do those kinds of things. So just something to be mindful of when you're facing group situations, just something to be aware of. Also, the group members could have certain expectations for the therapist. They could feel like the therapist falls short of those expectations, and that is okay. Not that we want to fall short of people's expectations, but just as we know, people have unrealistic expectations of people. Like they expect them to be perfect, or the perfect spouse, the perfect husband, the perfect wife, the perfect child, perfect friend. People might have an idea of you being the perfect therapist and you're going to change their world. And that obviously may not happen. And not, again, that is necessarily your fault. But I think even being willing to talk through that with the client could be really important and help with what they're dealing with, and again, I think it's trying to really teach them how to handle, hard situations, and really pushing them to navigate through those things. And hopefully with an outcome that is more beneficial than what they've experienced previously in their lives. Now, self-disclosure. I talked with you guys, or I didn't talk to you, I'm sorry. I watched a little bit in your videos. Some of you self-disclose, like, well, when I'm anxious, and that's all great. That might be helpful. I think we've even talked about this a little bit before, as far as like maybe some of your personal experiences, what led you into wanting to become a clinician. It might be why you're leading the type of group. Maybe you've experienced a severe loss. So grief is really important to you. Maybe you've been in a divorce and you've gone through it and you've come out the other side. So maybe a divorce care type situation is important to you. Maybe you've struggled with addiction and so you've been through that, or you've had family members that have struggled with addiction. So there's a lot of reasons why we do what we do, right? Most therapists haven't had like a perfect life, and that's what caused them to be a clinician. Not saying we've had trauma, but we've had maybe different experiences that made us want to help others. And so just making sure, like, our self-disclosure, whatever we decide to disclose, that it's appropriate to the setting of the group, that we're not making it about ourselves, that it's beneficial and useful for the group. And what I saw that you used in the videos was really great. Like, I think someone talked about when I'm anxious and, I use this exercise. So let me show you guys the exercise. Saying things like that is not bad or inappropriate or toxic or any of those things. All those things can be beneficial and helpful and useful. So I just want you to know that, that don't get discouraged by not saying anything. I think it's just there's the boundary between oversharing and appropriate sharing, and we just don't want to get caught up in the oversharing part, right? Because these aren't our friends, these are our clients, and we have to, you're the group leader, you're the person in charge of the group, you're part of the group, but you're in charge of the group. And so just making sure that you have that appropriate boundary with group members is really important. Okay. And, self-disclosure is an essential step in the work of therapy, but not as an end in itself. So it's not everything. Um, and I think for clients, obviously we want them to self-disclose and feel comfortable. We have to have also a level of vulnerability and trust in the group. And so that's where too, if we're not handling complicated situations which are causing things to not feel safe, you're not going to have clients open up and be feeling like they can trust even group members and or you. And so that's why it's so important to address hard things, because we want everyone to get the most out of group and feel safe and like they can get the most out of group. Okay, I'm going to keep this brief this week because I know we've had so much going on. But again, I'm really excited about looking at your papers. I'll get through all that this week, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you.